Uh, at the base of Table Mountain in Cape Town, South Africa, sits one of the world's most gorgeous botanical gardens. It has beautiful, diverse flowers, birds of paradise, king protea, sugar bush, renowned all over the world. The man who created this garden was named Henry Pearson, and he is buried in the garden. There is no great statue of him. The plaque is small. It sits amidst a gorgeous collection of colorful flowers. And the epitaph says, "If you seek his monument, look around you." Fellow mourners, if you seek Bobby's monument, look around you. We are the garden that Bobby created. We are the extended family that Bobby and Ginny braided together from all walks of their incredibly rich half a century of marriage. His colleagues, his students, their friends from Princeton, their friends from our magical summer community in upstate New York, and of course, their children. If you think about the arc of Bobby's life, it was not inevitable, perhaps you could even say it was not even likely, that he would create a life so profoundly devoted to family. My window on the young Bobby comes from my wife, Stephanie. Many of you here know that before there was a Bobby and Ginny, and before there was a Stephanie and Paul, there was a Stephanie and Bobby. This was in his hippie years in the late 60s. And Stephanie remembers Bobby as charming, charismatic, cocky. Pretty sure he was the smartest guy, not just in the room, but in the planet. And one of her fondest memories, a story she loves to tell, is when 19-year-old Stephanie told her 21-year-old boyfriend, "You know, Bobby, you're very smart. You're very smart, but you're not smart about everything. There are certain things you're not really that smart about." She said it in a teasing, ego-puncturing way. I'm familiar with that. And Bobby didn't take it well, as Stephanie tells the story. He kind of came back, "Well, what are you talking about?" "Well, you know, maybe people skills, maybe other things. It's just not all about you." Anyway, she was visiting Bobby out at Stanford at the time, and over the 3 or 4 days of the visit, he kept on coming back. "What do you mean I'm not smart about this? What do you mean I'm not smart about that?" Well, Bobby and Stephanie didn't last. This was wonderful news to Stephanie's parents, who thought Bobby was bad news. It was even better news to Bobby's parents, who thought Stephanie was bad news. And it was very good news for Ginny and me. But if you think about who that young man was, that his self-identity was all about how smart he was. That is, on the face of it, not the optimal foundation to lead the life he led, so devoted to family and so devoted to others. So how did he get from there to here? I don't know all the answers, but I'll make 2 offerings. One of them is sitting right there, Ginny. Ginny has sort of made her life's work wrangling Bobby, domesticating Bobby, and smoothing out some of Bobby's sharp edges. She never got them all. If you had the bad fortune to be a waiter who got the order wrong, or a sommelier who didn't pair the wines the right way, or God forbid, an economist who tried to pull a fast one by taking some data, plucking them out of context, Bobby could cut you down to size with a withering glance and with a mordant and caustic laughter. So that was Bobby, but that was not the biggest part of Bobby. The biggest part of Bobby is what you already heard about. There was a largeness of heart about Bobby. There was a generosity of spirit about Bobby. And what we haven't talked about, but I think is part of the key to this whole thing, there was a little boy about Bobby. How many grown men call themselves Bobby? My favorite current window into Bobby is the office in his Princeton home above the garage, that modest little, modest little office above the garage. It has a wall of the kind that one would expect from someone who has had the kind of distinguished career that Bobby has had. It has the diplomas. It has the photographs with presidents and cabinet secretaries. It has the mementos from cases won and all the rest. But I'm pretty sure that the favorite wall hanging in that office is the headline from the Harvard Crimson that says, "Pinball fans aghast as Willig gets 2785." A record apparently that holds to this day. Why do I think that's his favorite wall hanging? Because in that same office, across the way, there is a giant poster of a pinball machine. And then on the other wall, there is a giant actual pinball machine. And next to that giant pinball machine is a giant giraffe. And it is one of maybe a dozen giraffes in that very room, and probably 4 or 5 scores of giraffes all over the house. You create that office that way, and you're sending a message to yourself, to your kids, to everybody who visits, which is take your work seriously, but don't take yourself too seriously. If you take a tour of the rest of the Willig, the Mason Willig home, there are other messages they can say. As many of you know, they are wonderful collectors of art. There's hardly a square inch of that house that doesn't have art on it. But the square inches that don't have art have family photographs. We all have family photographs in our homes. I've never been in a home that has as many family photographs as Bobby and Ginny's home. They are every hallway, up the stairs, down the stairs, into their bedroom, on every surface, every album. That's the message, that this is what we value. This is what's important. Stephanie and I know that house very well. We have been overnight guests in that house, I'm guessing hundreds and hundreds of nights. We have an undeclared contest with the Shimshonis as to which of us had been more the beneficiaries of Bobby and Ginny's hospitality at their many houses. We had them beat until the first year of the pandemic. They kind of cheated. They squatted up in upstate New York, and they took us out on that. I believe it's not just the house we know well, it's the family we know well. I think I've slept in every one of those kids' bedrooms, not when they were there, but and I've watched them from the beginning, and I've watched the whole journey with them. The day before Bobby died, the whole family had gathered for what was in effect a deathbed vigil. And Ginny called. We were on touch with Ginny many times a day. She asked Stephanie to get on the phone so Stephanie could say her last words. Bobby, and I listened in on the conversation, and it was a tearful one. And she recalled that, yes, their childhood romance, it didn't work out, but you know what, it was probably for the best, because what Ginny, what Stephanie got out of it, what Bobby and Ginny and I got out of it was really two families. That's how close we have been over the years, and lifelong friendships. And maybe I think Stephanie let Bobby know, maybe she was wrong 50 some years ago. Maybe Bobby actually did have a lot of people skills and emotional intelligence after all. So where does that leave us? Those children, to me, are like the flowers of Kirschenbach's, that gorgeous botanical garden. Each of them is different. Each of them is exquisite. They all have beautiful minds, and more important, they all have beautiful hearts. They are Bobby and Ginny's greatest creation. And because of them, Bobby may be gone, but he is still here.